All right, all right, all right. What's happening, everybody? Founders, welcome to the Elevate Podcast. We're here to lift you up to the next level. My name is Sean Malone. I'm one of the co-hosts alongside of Neil Faramon and, of course, Simon Severino. Gentlemen, how are we doing on this wonderful Wednesday morning?
Doing well, thank you. Summer is here, nearly over, but I don't want it to be over.
What's a big win for you?
Just launched a series of webinars over the last week, and we're just doing a one webinar per month on different topics around video production and audio and podcasting and things like that. So that's going well. It was well attended last Friday. So yeah, just gearing up for doing more of those.
Congratulations. And Mr. Simon Severino's in the house doing projects with Jay Abraham and all cool people like that. What's going on in your world, Simon?
Michelle and I, we just had a session where we simplified our website. We had so much already on our website and we made it as simple as possible. Each button, how can we make it punchy, tangible, and so that you want to click it? And it was a very good session. I think the website is better now.
All right, all right, all right. That's a big win for sure. Our the first big book that I'm writing is going to be. I got my cover back, started building some assets for it. It's into the line editing now, so I'm really close. I'm getting there, so I'm really excited about that as well. That's my win. Today we were talking about boundaries, everything boundaries that you need for life to succeed, to not die, to do all these cool things. And so we have a couple of questions. We're just going to kind of kick it off. This is going to be kind of a candid conversation rather than a structured one today. But I'll just kind of throw out the first question about boundaries when it comes to being a founder. Neil, I'll come to you. How do you separate your personal time from work time, and what strategies do you use to maintain the separation?
Wow. Okay. Well, I've sort of worked in both camps. So I used to work for a company as an employee for many, many years before starting my own business. And one thing I learned fast is that you can simply burn out very quickly by just committing to too much, both in the founder's side of things and as an employee as well. So one thing I've learned straight away is to start saying no, both to projects that may come in that you don't want to deal with, and potentially with, being able to say no to your boss. I think that's a big thing, because travel and working too much was a big deal for me, and I learned very quickly to separate that time and not to commit to too much. So that was my
Let's go into that a little bit
things.
deeper, because I think it's a good answer. I think like saying no is definitely a pro tip that people should write down on their notebooks if they're listening to this podcast. But it's hard to say no, Neil.
Mm-hmm.
What does it take to actually say no to a boss too? I mean, like, that's a challenge, right? How do you muster up the courage, or I mean, what are some of the fears that roll through your head when, I mean, a lot of founders are probably, have employees that are going to say no to them maybe. So that's like just that thought, like, how do you get around that, or how do you muster up the courage to do it?
I think initially when I first started my IT consultancy job as a newbie, it wasn't possible to say no. You're just finding your feet. You have to do whatever you can, I think, to support the company that you're working for. But there comes a time when you have a trust and relationship with that particular employer that you can then start to have conversations with them. And really, from their perspective, being a trusted employee allows you to have the confidence to actually push back a little bit. And I think it's a trust building exercise to start with, in order for me to actually say no. If I build credibility with them, if I do a good job, if they know I'm reliable, then I think it's easier for somebody to then say no to a particular boss. That's how I sort of structured my life in that respect.
I love that. I would actually add to this. Simon has a guy in his community named Doug Campbell, has become kind of a friend of mine. And Doug is a master at helping people create feedback loops. So one of the ways that you can say no easily to anybody and anywhere is when you're setting it up. Think through, how do you create a feedback loop that you can actually get the feedback and be able to say no, have an open place for discussion. One of the things that we entered into our business that really helped, right? And again, if you're an employee, saying no is one thing. If you're a founder, saying no is another thing. So as a founder saying no, remember, all we need to do is we need to say, what's the course of the direction? What's the end goal for our business? And that becomes the North Star. And then every decision that we're going to make to spend our time on one thing or another, if it doesn't lead to the outcome of like getting that result, you should say no, right? Because this is how you collapse timelines in your business. Most people don't say no. In fact, millionaires say yes, billionaires say no. So I love that lesson, Neil. I think that's a really great tip. Simon, over to you. You've been listening now very patiently. How do you separate personal time from work time? And what strategies do you use to maintain separation?
I don't separate. There is no separation when you are the business owner. There is no separation, and I don't even try. So for my children, I have three kids, and they need to know, okay, when can I play with Papa? When should I let him work? Right? So because they don't have a separation either. There is just Papa. Papa, let's play this. And so if they see me in the living room, they Papa, let's play, and we play. But if I am in this room and if I've closed the door, that's a separation for them. But for me, there is no separation. If I'm swimming, I'm thinking about the business. When I'm dreaming about the business. When it's your business and your business is your life's work, everything feeds into each other. So I walk down the street and I'm eating ice cream with my kids. I go, what's the business model of this brand, this ice cream brand? Why do I go to this brand and not to that other brand? What about the pricing? Ooh, look, when I have 10 ice creams and then they stamp it, I get the 11th for free. Should I do this with, there is this one client in Austin. I have to tell them, and I literally make a screenshot of that thing and send it to that client, and then I continue walking with my kids. So I don't separate it except by rooms, by spaces, because I'm working from home.
Which brings another question, because I work from home as well. I think Neil does as well, and I think like the culture is going in that direction. But I would just ask, like, how do you maintain presence with your children if you're thinking about work?
By integrating everything. So, for example, we're playing dinosaurs and we're dinosaurs and we're a dinosaur family. And, that's the 2-year-old and the 6-year-old. But then the 9-year-old says, Papa, can I learn something? I say, okay, what do you want to learn? Let's go over to your computer. I want to learn about those green and red things that are on your thing. And okay, we come here and he learns. And literally, last week, both the 6-year-old and the 9-year-old said, Papa, I saved 50 euros. I want to invest them into one of the companies that you have on your wall in your room. So we went here to this room. On that wall, you see my 9 companies my core compounding portfolio. And they know all of them, like they know Amazon, they know Harvia, etc. And they said, I want to invest in one of those. Okay, let's do it. Then we did it here. And then we went back and we went playing dinosaurs again. Is that work? Is that life? I know no separation. I involve them, they involve me.
So your brain, I think, functions a little bit differently than most humans. So I think that you should take that as a compliment, because most people that I know cannot separate. And what I find I've seen my friends go through this, and maybe you have a rebuttal to this, or maybe you don't, but it's like there's a business owner and then his wife, and then like they'll go out to dinner, and then his wife wants to have like personal time, but he is just in the business and he's not paying attention to her at all, and it causes fights. I've seen it happen over and over and over again. So, what would you say to the founder that can't compartmentalize as well as you can?
If you're married, tell her about it. Of course, if your job is so boring that you don't want to tell, then think about your job a second time, right? But
Yeah.
My job is not boring. I say, hey, I met Neil today and this is what I learned from Neil. By the way, he's in Portugal and he has this garden work. I would love to have garden work. And then she goes, oh yeah, you remember our first apartment had a garden and you loved garden work, but then actually we didn't like it that much. So you see how these things can actually feed into each other. With our spouses, communicate. Don't hide it. Make it as public as possible. Actually, my wife, she wants to know as much as possible about what did I experience today? What are my fears? What's my adventure right now? Those things, we don't separate those either. She's also an entrepreneur. So I also want to hear her fears, her ambitions, her excitements. It's a roller coaster, and it's our life, you know. Her clients are friends of ours. She's physiotherapist, and she helps people before and after pregnancy to get into running again, into fitness again. You think she can separate that? That's friend of ours. So many of my clients become friends after 5 years of working together. And then I become their client after 6 years of working together. And then
Yeah.
20 years later, maybe we meet on a festival for a concert.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's awesome. I am a believer of you can integrate it, you can have it all. You just have to figure out the space and the boundaries and how to do that. That's obviously why we're talking today. So, great addition. Let's go to question number 2. In what ways, Neil, do you communicate your availability and limits to your team, your investors, your clients? Like, how do you communicate availability to them?
So, well, it depends basically. If they have a regular service with me, for example, then it's on a calendar scheduling basis. So I will block out time that's not available to them, where I'm taking holiday or time out, and they will be either notified via an email or something like that in terms of being able to book my specific time. I will also notify people if I'm going on holiday or anything, on things like that. So it's just keeping up that level of communication, either via a booking mechanism, or if it's an existing client, an email to them. And it's just basically publishing that availability. That's all I do, and just keep in regular contact with people. And just setting those boundaries as well, because I work with a lot of people in the US. So for me, I have to specifically set my time where I'm going to work until a certain time of day. So it might be 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock my time in the evening on certain evenings where I'll work specifically to support the US clientele. And then I basically won't do anything working with clients in the morning in European time to have time with my family and things like that. So I'm just trying to shift my time, but keeping obviously a conscious effort to give myself some personal time as well and some space for doing my gardening work, as Simon says.
I love that, and I love that you're a gardener. That's amazing. Horticulturist, green thumb. Simon, over to you. In what ways do you communicate your availability and your limits to your team, your investors, your clients, etc.?
I'm getting complaints that it's so hard to book a time with me. And it took me 20 years to build this. And it's a very good idea to limit your accessibility for people. So similar to Neil, I'm in Europe and I have mostly American clients. So in the morning, I have very quiet mornings. They start with me time, running, playing with the kids. And then in the morning, the only person that really can get a time with me is Michelle. For example, today we were working on something. So we had a workshop. We were simplifying the website. In the morning, there is no way of getting a meeting with me in the morning. It's just not possible. Calendly is blocked for the mornings because I want to do deep work, like simplifying a whole website or writing something from end to end, creating a video or a masterclass or a course. And so that's one boundary, right? Morning, no meetings. Afternoon, I have meetings. I have meetings with the people who need me and with our clients, etc. But it's hard to book a time. Even if you go to our website, you can't book a time with me anymore. It was, hey, book a time. That was our website. Hey, let's talk. We have eliminated that. It's not that easy to talk. You shouldn't talk to us directly. You should try it out. Now you test it for 7 days. And if it works, then you can book time with me, and that's paid time. So I'm introducing more layers. Also, Michelle is much more attentive to if she books me on podcasts. They have to have now a higher number of episodes. No podcasts below 200 episodes. no podcast that has less than 30 Apple podcast reviews. So we are slowly raising, year after year, we are raising those. We're getting more aware of how we use our time. I'm getting better at this. Of course, some people are pissed. That's the negative side. But the good side is I've never burned out in 21 years because I'm introducing those layers and being attentive of these things.
Yeah, I like the concept of a business as a marathon, not a sprint. I like the idea of time blocking, I would say, is one of the things that really kind of saved my life. In fact, one of my coaches, his name is Alex Sharfin. And I was at a place in my life where it was a very dark time. I was actually in a place where I wanted to take my own life. And Alex Sharfin pulled me aside and he said to me one thing that really kind of changed my perspective forever. He said, what's the most important thing in your life? And I said, no question, my wife. And he says, okay, open your calendar and prove it to me. And I was like, oh, that sucks because I didn't have her anywhere on. I did no time blocking for my wife, and obviously, if she's my most important thing, is like, why isn't she there? And that moment really kind of transformed me because I was like, okay, that's it, non-negotiable. Every Saturday night, it's blocked off from 3 p.m. until the rest of the night for date night, and that's one night a week. And then we brought in, I need a little more time with her, so we brought in like a lunch block, 30 days, 30 minutes a day, Monday through Friday, that I spend with my wife, and that's my time with my wife on my calendar. And I think that's really important. The other thing that I would include or add to this kind of conversation is like I do, Simon, you talked about working on the business versus in the business, right? Like when you're communicating with a prospect, that's in the business time because they can finance and buy stuff from you. And then on the business is like fixing a website, writing a book, doing these other things that are like very valuable to hit towards your kind of your goal. And I think time needs to be blocked for all of those things, right? So what I do is I don't do any client calls on Fridays. Fridays are my day for that on the business time. And then I also Thursday afternoon have an on the business time meeting with our leadership squad because I get their input and then Friday I implement, right? And so that's kind of like been my MO and how I've worked for a while. And it's worked extraordinarily well, right? It gives me a break from being on Zoom. If you're on Zoom all day, you know, like the Zoom room doom, right? Like it'll get on you if you're doing too many of them. So yeah, definitely time blocking I think is valuable. Calendars, like Neil said, is really valuable. And then Simon, of course, just like making sure that I like the limited availability. In fact, one of the laws of power, there's a book by Robert Greene called Laws of Power. And in that book, one of the laws of power is make yourself very limited available. So I like what you're doing there. I think that's awesome. Let's go to the next question. Neil, back to you. How do you handle requests or demands that conflict with your values or your well-being?
If you asked me this 10 years ago, working for a company and not being an entrepreneur, then I would say it's a difficult one because you're then in conflict potentially with your employer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just sucked it up basically and had to do what I had to do. But as a entrepreneur, somebody who's running my own company now, I simply won't do business with anybody that either conflicts with my values or has too much of a demand on my time. And I think that's a very powerful thing. I think it's really important to be true to yourself. It's very easy when you're just starting off to say yes to everything. Yes to this particular project, yes to this person, yes to this, whatever it is that they're asking for. Because obviously you're trying to build a business, you're trying to build a reputation. Well, that's the surefire way, though, of burning yourself out and really just conflicting with what you believe in and what you want to do. So the power of saying no, as we mentioned before, is a very powerful thing. And it's very empowering as well to that individual. And there's nothing wrong with saying, look, something I'm not really comfortable with doing. I don't really feel I want to do that. And I've done that a number of times. I've had somebody ask me a particular project that doesn't necessarily conflict with my values, but it was in a time frame that I couldn't support. It was in a time window that was just too late for me in the working day. And I said, look, there's some other people that may be able to support you, but I'm not that. And I gave recommendations of other people. And it's not just a flat no. If I can support by giving a reference to somebody else, I will. But I think it's really important to just have those boundaries. And it gets easier the more you say no.
Yeah, for sure. Great answer. I love that one. Simon, over to you. Same question. How do you handle requests or demands that conflict with your values or your well-being?
I say no. I've grown uh, comfortable with saying no. I had 21 years to practice, and the first big one, of course, as an employee, I always said yes, 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 yes. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Me, 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 me. But that was just 4 years of my life, and then I went on my own, and the first very important boundary was to ground myself. So in my line of business, you fly to the clients, you solve their problems, you fly back. Now, if you have more clients, you just flew to Paris to solve the problem of Airbus. And now from Paris, you fly to London to solve the problem of the next client. And then you hope that by Thursday or Friday, you're back. And so I was in that airplane life. And the biggest decision for me was to ground myself. I said, I don't fly anymore. And you can imagine that was a huge revenue decrease. And so after I had that, I became very comfortable with losing revenue in a specific strategic move. Because the biggest trade-off is, hey, I know this feels right, but I will lose money temporarily. And I don't know how long the duration is of that temporarily. We don't know. We only know we will use revenue next month. And so that was the hardest decision the first time I took it. But then I had to take it multiple times. And then COVID came and I was forced to lose revenue. And so now I lost revenue so many times that I know quite exactly how many days it takes me to ramp it back up. And I can calculate that. Can we afford losing that revenue? Yes or no? It's pretty simple. It's one click to the spreadsheet, current cash flow, duration of the dip, and then we know yes or no. So I grew comfortable by saying no multiple times. And in 21 years, being 4 or 5 times at this decision point, okay, we need to change something. It's gonna cost us. What's the current cash flow? How long do we need to ramp up the next cash flow if we decide to dry this up? And right now, many people are facing this question. AI came and is doing what their agency is doing. So you know exactly what you need to do. You have to pivot your offer. And those teams right now are having exactly this discussion. Hey, do we cannibalize ourselves before OpenAI does it, right? And the answer is yes, of course. You do it first. You don't wait until the pipeline dries up. You do it first. And the same calculation is, okay, we know that's the right thing to do because nobody will pay us for building a website when Claude can build your website in 10 minutes. That's literally how we have simplified our website. Claude did it, not Michelle and I. Michelle and I were asking Claude, and then Claude did it.
Yeah, I really like what you said, Simon. I think everybody listening could definitely take something from that, and that is fear. There's only 2 fears that you're born with. Do you guys know what they are? Neil, do you know what they are? The 2 fears that you're born with. Everything else made up, but what are the 2 that you're born with?
No, I don't know.
Simon?
I've heard this before, but go ahead.
Simon.
Fear of not eating pizza every day.
That is a fear, but that's a made up one.
Okay.
The fear of heights and the fear of loud noises are the only 2 that you're inherently born with. The rest is made up, right? So I heard this one analogy once, or acronym. Fear is false evidence appearing real, right? And so if you have fear diving into doing something like blowing up your business, get rid of it because it's made up, right? Have a coach or someone like Simon or me or Neil like talk you through or off that cliff, because what's coming is what's coming. You can't change AI. AI is only going to get smarter, bigger, faster, and better, and it's going to crush a lot of things. And if you're in the way, you're going to get crushed. But if you understand how to maneuver around it and then use it to your benefit, you're going to win, right? And so things like the doing job now becomes a reviewing job, right? Like, so simple shifts like this for like an AI example, very, very simple. If you have a setter who's setting conversations for you in the DMs, they're doing that work. Well, when AI, the sentient being that comes in that eventually starts to talk good DMs, none of them do right now. That setter is not going to be doing the setting. They're going to be reviewing what's AI saying to my prospects, right? So the shift is just it's probably smaller than what most people think. So I just want to share that. The second thing that I'll talk about is based on this question is like, how do you request or how do you deal with requests and demands that conflict with your values or well-being? Well, first of all, have you defined your values? See, I think every company should have a max of 5 values, right? Ours is kindness. Kindness is a strategy. Love, serve with love, right? To sell is to love. We versus me. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And then Kaizen. If you're not getting 1% better in my company, don't be here, right? And so those are kind of the values. And so like I know my core values. And then so when I'm having conversations with prospects, one of the things that I always match them up in my questioning strategies are, do they align with my values before I even start with them? Because if not, get the hell out of here. I don't want to talk to them anymore. Right. And then the second thing is this: if you have a bunch of haters and you have people that are getting into your products and services and they're just nag, 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 you know the type I'm talking about. It's those negative Nellies, the ones that want to make you drive into a tree, or at least for me, it was. Don't be afraid to fire clients. A public firing of a client is a really healthy thing for a business to do. Again, there's a little bit of fear that's baked around your head probably on that topic. But once you fire your first one and you feel the weight lift off your shoulders of all of this like nasty pressure, you're like, oh, I can breathe again. Like that feeling, that's amazing, right? And so I would say no to the nay, fire the clients that are annoying, and make sure you have some sort of a pre-qualification criteria that they match your values when you're going in, right? That's kind of how I deal with that. Let's move to the next question. Neil, what boundaries do you set to protect your mental health and prevent burnout?
So every morning I will have time with my wife over coffee in the garden if it's sunny, even if it's not, go under the covers, just to get outdoors, breathe in the air. I basically live in a small village in the middle of nowhere in Portugal. I'm not in a city. My neighbor is quite a few 100 meters away from me, and they're lovely old people who just sort of wave through the window. So for me, getting outside, being in nature, being in the garden, doing something that isn't related to anything that I do at all. No phone, no notebook, nothing. I know that Simon thinks, around his business all the time, but I try to just be present and detach myself completely from anything to do with what I'm doing in the day. I might have a chat to my wife, who's also, an entrepreneur. She's trying to build up her business as well, a little bit about things that we're trying to achieve to a certain extent, but nothing sort of deep dive. It's nice to just sit in there. We have 5 outdoor cats that come and sit in our lap. The purring is very therapeutic. So just spending time in nature is one of the biggest ways that I try to avoid burnout, as well as we mentioned before, setting boundaries in terms of time boundary, setting calendar blocks up and things like that. Just having time for you, alone time as well, is very important, as well as being together with somebody else. I'm a musician. I love playing piano. Just love just dabbling around. So anything that I can do to escape from the daily grind or anything that's nagging me is what I've been trying to do and get better at. I'm a worrier, so I do worry about things. Is that client okay? Have I done a good job? All those things that go around in your mind. I try and get into a zone, this flow state, whereby I'm not thinking about things and I'm just playing music, and it takes me right out of that, monkey mind, as they talk about. So those are a few things that I do on a sort of a daily basis to get out of the grind.
We're learning so much about you. You're a tea drinking musician who's a cat dad that loves gardening. Like that, you should be on a game show or something, man. That's amazing.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah.
That's so good, dude. Simon, over to you. What boundaries do you set to protect your mental health and prevent burnout?
I don't separate work and business. what I do every day is at least 1 hour of intense workout. So it's not just running, it's at least 1 hour of high intensity training. Usually it's with weights, and it's 1 hour. And you might say, how does that relate to mental health? Well, you will be very hard pressed to find somebody who has bad mood and bad emotional control that is working out intensely with weights and with high intensity every day, 7 days a week for years. You don't find it. So a friend of mine, we were super sad. He got divorced, and we sit there with a drink in our hand and go, okay, what to do? And he goes, Simon, I'm going to work out every day. I will not be a victim of my mood right now. I will take back control. I'm going to work out every day. I'm going to hit the gym. He did it. He did both therapy and gym, but gym had the most impact. It was so helpful, and he's still hitting the gym, and he looks great. So when I don't know exactly what it is, but I feel that if I do at least 1 hour of intense workout, plus maybe some movement with my kids that I do anyways, 3-4 hours of movement with my kids, right? A little bit of tennis, a little bit of soccer, a little bit of biking, we do anyways. But that one in high intensity training with weights, it creates kind of a protection shield, an energetic protection shield around me. It's really hard to get through my skin if I did my 1 hour hard workout, if I did sprinting or if I did weightlifting. Things don't touch me as deep as they touch me. Things happen, and then Michelle and Lou and I, we say, okay, here is a huge tiger in front of us. What do we do, guys? And everybody says, let's attack this tiger. Let's go. And we have tigers all the time, because when you run a business and in 14 countries, you have so many tigers. But we are in that energy that says, okay, here's a tiger. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm a big believer of that, and I love that. And it just kind of proves that, I mean, like if I were to ask Simon or Neil your goals for where your business is, like both of them would have some goals of where they're trying to strive. And I can almost assure you, because I've known these guys now for years, that every single decision they make in their business is leading towards that big pillar on the top of the hill where they're trying to get to. And that's the one thing. So if you don't have a goal, I would definitely encourage you to get one. So a couple of things that I do here to prevent boundaries or to set boundaries and prevent my mental health is I live and die by my calendar, right? Is if it's a work event, I'm all in on work. I have what we call pay time, which is usually like 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. for me. That's time where it's business time. And then time before that, time after that is personal time. And it's blocked on my calendar to do stuff for me. And so I just live and die, like go to the gym in the morning, like go to the gym and my personal time. That's my personal time blocking. So time blocking and living and dying by a calendar, a lot of people think that's restrictive. It's actually freeing, right? Experience it if you've never tried it. The other thing that I was going to mention, I love the workout thing too, because I think like firing endorphins makes you like hardcore, like good for business minded stuff. Neil, I used to struggle with the same thing that you did. I was a bit of a worrier. And there was one question that my coach, actually Russell, said to me. I don't know if it was Russell, it was one of my coaches, that eliminated all of that worry. And here's the question. So write this one down. What do you need to see to believe this to be true, right? So what do you need to see to believe that your client is in good shape? What do you need to see to believe that you're on track to get to the right goal weight? What do you need to see to believe that kind of a outcome, right? And if you start asking that question yourself over and over and over again, you'll be like, oh, well, if I see their numbers doing this and this, and this is the trend, my client's good. And then you can stop your brain and just go on to the next one, right? So that question really helped me. Maybe it'll help you.
Great advice. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. All right, last one. We'll wrap this up here. Simon, how do you ensure that your role as a leader doesn't lead to over-involvement in every aspect of the business?
That's a good one. Because, of course, I was the one doing stuff, so I was the fastest in doing it. And as soon as I started delegating, immediately I was like, oh my God, I should take this back. I'm faster. I'm better at this. and that's the novice mistake. Never allow back delegation, right? Never. If you've delegated something, it's their swim lane. And so what we have introduced is this swim lane concept. Everybody owns one thing end to end. For example, getting Simon on podcasts. It's Michelle's thing. It's her swim lane. She reports every Friday about the numbers and the learnings and what she's going to improve. But even if in a given week, I feel that it's not going well, I don't allow myself to enter the swim lane. I will ask, hey, from 1 to 10, how well is the process going from your perspective? If she says 7, say, cool. What do you need to get it to 8? And do you need help with that? Do you have a plan? Oh, yes, I have a plan. Okay, fine. No, I don't have a plan. How will you get to a plan? I will ask Claude. Wonderful. Do you need more capacity in Claude? Yeah, let's go to a higher level because I'm hitting the Claude limit every 3 hours. Okay. Okay, let's increase the capacity.
Claude thanks you for your recent donations.
Thank you for your services, Claude. We love having you on our team.
That's fantastic. Wow. I love that, dude. Okay. Neil, over to you. How do you ensure that your role as a leader doesn't lead to over-involvement in every aspect of the business?
For me, I'm just a person of one right now, so my delegation will be to AI. So I'll delegate wherever I want in that particular case. But previously, I was a manager of a part of my team, and similar to Simon, it's sometimes hard to not sort of be involved in everything. And I think you have to put a lot of trust in the people that you're working with. I think that's a really important thing. But it's also important to verify. You get the whole phrase, trust but verify. But it's important to verify what you inspect what you expect. Because at the end of the day, if you are expecting one thing and that person's going down a track that isn't going to achieve the particular goal or aspect that you've assigned them to do, then you really are in a bit of a pickle. So it's important really to just review without trying to micromanage or insert yourself unnecessarily. And I think that was the important sort of lesson for me. It's hard sometimes because the trust thing especially with new people, if you don't know them very well, you've got to give people the benefit of the doubt. And I think that's sort of the faith in human nature that we have to a certain extent. But you always need to verify exactly what you're expecting from that particular outcome, because if there's a deadline involved or anything else, then it's going to be a serious ramp up if you have to then basically work harder to achieve that goal that wasn't met by that particular time frame, and if something had gone wrong. So yeah, that's my advice.
Good. I love it. The thing that I would add here is kind of where same path as what Simon is talking about. Delegation, I think, is really valuable, but I also would say one of the things that's really helped us is defining what we call a 4R document for every position within our organization. And so the 4 R's are this: what's the role? Right? A 1 sentence to 1 paragraph about this is your role, right? What are the responsibilities you must, incorporate in this role? And this is what you're responsible for. And we actually list that stuff out. What are the requirements? What skills do you need to be able to execute that? And how can we help you serve and get that in your life? And then what are the results that we're looking for? So it's role, responsibility, requirements, and results. And we write a 1 piece of paper pager for everybody in our company with what their role is, what their requirements, what their responsibilities, and what the results are. And then we give that to them when they first start, and we talk through it. And then we do a review in 30 days. And then we do another review after that in 60 days. And then we do one in 90 days. And then we start doing them every 6 months. And so we can tweak and adjust. There's a place for them to say, have space and come back to us and say, I need help and support, kind of like the conversation that Simon was mentioning, but just giving them kind of that 1 piece of paper framework that says, here's your roles. This is, the responsibility for you. You got to have your requirements of your skill sets, and then here's the results. And that has really, really helped us to have everyone kind of stay in their own swim lane, as so to speak, as Simon calls it. So that would be it, right? So any last thoughts on this topic before we shut this thing down today? I'll go to you, Simon, first.
I think it's summer. Don't forget to enjoy summer. How many summers do you have? I have probably 45, 50 more summers. So I'm going to make them count. We are leaving for 5 weeks. We will be at our beach house. Can I separate not thinking about the business for 5 weeks? Of course not. I will. I go with my canoe and then I'm thinking about canoe brands. And but will it interfere with being present with the sea and as a father and as a husband? Absolutely not. The phone is off. And but it's a ritual that I've installed 20 years ago. Every summer having a long break. I had no family, so it was just me and then me and my girlfriend and then me and my wife, etc. But now that it's a full family of 5, we still do it every summer. Our happy place. We have our happy place. We go there for a long enough duration that nothing can interrupt that joy and that presence. And so that's what's happening the next 5 weeks.
Yeah, I love that. I would just share this before I come to Neil for last closing thoughts here, but like design your lifestyle before you design your business, right? What's the lifestyle you want to lead and how does your business serve that lifestyle? Because if you do it backwards, you're going to be a slave to your own business and you'll hate it. That's what I'd share. That's my last takeaway from today. Neil, any last closing thoughts before we shut this thing down?
I just love both of what you said, and particularly in the Strategy Sprints Club that Simon did mention, like, it was that question, how many summers do you have? And it's a really important question, right? Because we don't know how long we've got on this earth.
Yeah.
It's important to enjoy the moments with your family, with your friends, and not always be thinking about and working at work. It is your business and you have control over it as an entrepreneur, but you also have to give time back to you and your family, because you could be on your deathbed and think, and have those regrets, but I'm still working. There's no point. And I think you have to be comfortable and achieve a position in your business where you're comfortable and not always trying to achieve the bigger goal, because those moments with your family and your friends will be long gone. So like you, Simon, around summer, I don't take long times out anymore. I do take, the odd days here and there, a couple of days here, a couple of days there, but every week I try and do something. Go somewhere different, take time out, and just be kind to yourself, because that's the important thing.
And that's going to wrap it up for today's Elevate podcast. If you're a founder trying to get to the next level, make sure and smash that like button, share this out to someone else that can need it. And of course, leave a comment. If there's a topic you want us to discuss or chat about, even maybe potentially have you on as a guest, just drop a comment below. We'll definitely reach out to you and go from there. But in the meantime, thank you guys so much for being here, listening to us. We love you. Have a wonderful summer. And when's our next one? We'll be back a couple of weeks from now, right, Simon?
September.
All right, you guys got a month and a half to enjoy it. We'll be back.
Bye-bye.
In September. Bye for now.
Avoid trying to do thousands of things that doesn't work. We have 274 templates for your business success. Reach your ambitious goals with one-on-one sprint coach. We double your revenue in 90 days.
What if your business would run well even when you are on vacation? Discover how 1,600 business owners have regained their freedom using the Strategy Sprints blueprints. How they enjoy living their dream and watching their business scale. Get the exact checklists they use to go from stressed to fulfilled using the Strategy Sprints method. Order your copy of Strategy Sprints 12 Ways to Accelerate Growth for an Agile Business on Amazon today. And if you love it, leave us a review.